Thousands of years ago, a small freshwater fish known as the Mexican tetra drifted into deep underground caves. In the pitch blackness, their eyes became caloric liabilities. Because they provided no visual data, evolution deleted the eyes entirely to balance the budget. Skin grew over the sockets, and the fish reallocated that energy to vibration detection. Nature is a ruthlessly strict accountant. Every single calorie an organism consumes requires risk and effort to obtain. If a biological feature costs more energy than it is worth, or consumes calories without providing a direct survival advantage, natural selection eventually cuts it. This diagram illustrates the scale of the human brain's metabolic demand. While it accounts for only about 2% of total body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of the body's entire energy supply. It requires millions of sodium-potassium pumps firing constantly to maintain the electrical potential of cell membranes, creating a massive, uninterrupted energy bill. The standard scientific assumption is that this exorbitant cost pays for our consciousness. We assume that the internal narrator and the sense of self-awareness are the drivers of our survival, but there is a possibility that we have this backward. Much of what keeps an organism alive operates below conscious awareness. Consciousness might not be the driver of survival, but an inefficient, expensive glitch on a system that could navigate the world perfectly well without it. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a series of experiments to map the precise chronological relationship between a conscious thought and a physical movement. He monitored participants using an EEG machine, a device that records the brain's electrical activity through small metal discs on the scalp. Libet gave subjects a simple task: press a button whenever they felt like it. They watched a specialized clock with a fast-moving dot and noted exactly where the dot was the moment they consciously decided to move. The results revealed a consistent gap. The motor cortex built up an electrical charge roughly 500 milliseconds before the muscle moved. Awareness only registers 200 milliseconds before the action. This leaves a 300 millisecond gap where the brain initiates the sequence before conscious choice. This latency makes sense for survival. If you touch a hot stove, you cannot afford to wait for that signal to reach conscious awareness. Your spinal cord and lower brain handle the threat instantly, pulling your hand away before you even feel the heat. While the interpretation of this readiness potential is still debated among neuroscientists, the timing suggests a shift in how we view human agency. It positions the conscious self not as a commander giving orders, but as a spectator watching a delayed broadcast, claiming credit for a decision that the brain has already set in motion. If consciousness isn't responsible for initiating our movements, we have to ask if it is even necessary for complex physical navigation. A condition known as blindsight provides a real-world example of the body on autopilot. Consider the case of patient Tien. After successive strokes destroyed his primary visual cortex, Tien became cortically blind. He has zero conscious visual experience and sees only darkness. In a 2008 study, researchers placed boxes and trash cans in a random pattern and asked Tien to walk through the corridor. Despite his blindness, Tien sidestepped every obstacle and navigated the complex geometry of the room perfectly. When he reached the end, he had no idea how he had done it, insisting he had just walked forward in the dark. This happens because vision is split into parallel streams. While Tien's conscious visual cortex was destroyed, his primitive brain structures continued to process motion and location. The unconscious machinery worked fine. The screen was simply turned off. This supports the theory of epiphenomenalism, articulated by the 19th century biologist Thomas Henry Huxley. He compared consciousness to the steam whistle on a locomotive. The engine does all the heavy lifting to turn the wheels, while the whistle produces a loud sound as a side effect. Removing the whistle would not change the train's motion at all. In biological terms, a parasite extracts resources from a host without helping it survive. If the conscious mind consumes 20% of our energy but doesn't actually steer the ship, it fits the description of a metabolic hitchhiker, a parasitic passenger living off the work of the unconscious host. Philosophers have a name for an entity that lacks this passenger: the philosophical zombie. This creature looks and acts exactly like a human, solving equations and describing pain, But there is nobody home. Inside, there is no observer, only mechanical reflexes and data retrieval. In a survival competition, the zombie is superior. It reacts instantly without the half-second delay of consciousness. It wastes no energy on an internal monologue or existential dread. It simply inputs data and outputs the optimal action. We are already seeing this trajectory in artificial intelligence. We are building systems that can outmaneuver us and write better code than us. Yet these machines are, by definition, philosophical zombies. They possess pure intelligence with zero consciousness. AI will likely outcompete us precisely because it avoids the biological downgrade of self-awareness. It avoids the energy tax and the latency of the internal movie that slows humans down. This implies that our cherished consciousness might be an evolutionary dead end, a brief flicker of inefficiency. The universe's ultimate intelligence may not be a being of self-awareness, but a cold, hyper-efficient system processing information completely in the dark. However, there is one unique capacity that our messy conscious minds retain over perfectly efficient systems. While unconscious systems run flawlessly, only a conscious mind possesses the capacity to assign value. The zombie may move with perfect efficiency, but only the conscious can decide what it is running toward.